Hello, everybody. Here's another edition of Landscape Lies by Landscape Lyle. I think today's subject is going to be what really is a landscape contractor and all the things that are required of a successful and competent landscape contractor to execute a beautiful garden and to create a beautiful environment. Because there's more to landscaping than just doing sprinklers and lawns and mowing lawns and picking weeds, which apparently most people think that's all that's required. So let's dive into it. So I have a list, and I've probably gotten to around 15, so I shouldn't be too long with each description, but it'll give you a good idea of what's required. So let's start with, well, of course, planning and design. And of course, most of my clients, they require some planning because they love their gardens, and there's more to it than just to slap it in there. It does take some time and some effort and some creativity mixed with practical applications to give everybody what they're really looking for. And it takes time. The wheels of design are like the wheels of government. They should turn slowly because once you put it in the ground, it's there for a very long time. You want to get it right the first time. A second category would be, obviously to implement the design, and that would be construction management, being a construction expert, because we do everything that's required outside the house. And, that's brick and block and stone and concrete, planting, irrigation, outside lighting, creating a beautiful environment, water features. We do outdoor living rooms and outdoor kitchens. We really are experts at creating beautiful environments, usually stuff that would reflect putting in a permanent vacation, if that's a better way to describe it. And we can put in a desert environment. We can put in a tropical environment. I can build water features, swimming pool areas, things like that. Really, the sky is the limit on what's available on the outside of the house. You can consider us general contractors, and even though we're on the outside, based upon the licensing that I have here in the state of California, I'm allowed to build structures and other outbuildings that pertain to a beautiful landscape environment. We have to be good at logistics and procurement because materials just don't show up on the job. It takes some time to find them, make sure that they're the right ones, and obviously that are cost effective for everybody concerned. We act as a psychologist a lot of times as part of being a good salesperson, but once we're on the payroll, we really become more than that. We really have a much closer relationship with our clients in a lot of different aspects. Some of them are very long term. We watch their children grow. We see them change in life. We modify their yard and various environments to reflect their changes as well. That's part of the deal. We have to be a facilities manager. I have to maintain a proper level of tools and equipment, obviously maintained properly. We need to get there. So that means I have to manage a fleet. I have to make sure they're insured properly, make sure they're maintained properly, make sure they're equipped properly. That does take a little experience because really what we have are rolling toolboxes to be sure that my crew of craftsmen have everything they need to implement the plan that we have come up with for everybody. And on top of that, we have to be an HR pro. We do need people to help, and you just don't hire just anybody to put in some of the features that we have. There's an element of craftsmanship and experience that's required. We get to use modern technology. We use ground penetrating radar sometimes. We have satellite technology that's connected to our automatic sprinklers, and of course they're controlled by computers. We have to have computer technology at a minimum for billing and for maintaining an office and other things that are required to have some computer knowledge. You don't have to be a complete IT expert, but you do have a working knowledge to be able to navigate around all the responsibilities that are required to running a business and, of course, delivering a fine product. Of course, farming. I mean, that takes into account all the plant materials that we have that are part of it, making sure they're proper, because not all plant materials are created equal. You have to be a good judge of the materials. You have to make sure it's not root bound from being in a container for too long. That impacts the long-term health of the plant. You have to make sure it's properly grown. You don't want to put in a sickly or defective plant, or one that's not going to grow to the proper form or is not ready or part of a proper landscape that's going to look good long term. Because anybody can make it look good right away. The proof of the punch is how it looks with time. It should get better like a fine wine and not deteriorate with time. We're an educator. Obviously, we have to teach our employees the proper techniques. They don't always come with all the experience that's required. I have to help my clients understand various elements of the project. So there's an ongoing, what do they call that? Continuing education that every profession should be engaged in, but we are here. Absolutely. There's lots of stuff to learn, always new stuff to learn, no matter how experienced of a contractor or a business person you might be. There's always something to learn. We're researchers, which kind of goes back to being an educator. We have to look for new things. We have to look for new paradigms or new theories or newly discovered properties and things of that nature that are related to the landscaping materials and techniques that we may use. We have to be a financial consultant because, after all, I work very hard and I want to make sure that I maintain a viable business over time. Being in business is not necessarily the same thing as being a proper business person, and it does take some expertise and resilience to keep that ball rolling on a regular basis. It just doesn't happen by osmosis. We are scientists. We have to have basic knowledge of chemicals and pesticides and various other actions that interact with the soil. Soil's engineering, because we have to make sure that medium is proper for proper growth, because we are dealing with a living and breathing environment. It's not just static, although some of it is, concrete and wood structures and things like that. Once they're in. But it's still, there are things that affect it in the environment because it's outside. Even concrete and hardscape elements need servicing and maintenance to keep them at optimum performance. Even though things don't last forever, we don't want them to wear out in a year or two. Most hardscapes are definitely durable for 25 to 50 years, depending on the materials that you use and the environment that they're in and the weather that they're subjected to. We're weathermen. We have to make sure that the climate is conducive for anything we may do. You don't want to do concrete when it rains. Masonry is not done when there's any chance of rain. You don't do any kind of color coding or other kinds of things that could be affected. It can get too hot for concrete. It can get too hot for planting. It can get too cold both for those things as well. So you have to be on top of the weather as well. That's part of being a bit of a psychic, to kind of, predict what's going to happen. That's a very inexact science. We have to be lawyers because, of course, we have to keep up on what's current as far as the requirements, insurance requirements, building codes, new laws that affect contracting, all those kinds of things. I hope that has been a bit of a primer as to what we're up against to be a competent landscape contractor and for what to look for when you do choose the contractor that will put in your beautiful new garden. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this was informative. And until we meet again, this is Landscape Lyle with Landscape Lies by Landscape Lyle. Have a very nice day.